This program is brought to you by the Center for a Sustainable Today.
I went to school in Berkeley in the late 60s, and there was certainly a big movement towards back to the earth. People were moving out of the cities into the country. There was a renewed interest in going back to what they called the good old days, and it influenced a lot of people of my generation. Later on, when I first went and vacationed in Costa Rica, I discovered an amazing country that had an environmental consciousness that I'd never seen before. They didn't have an army. They had huge democratic confidence in their country, and they were very, very caring and warm people, and this just hit the right note in me. And through a series of events, we ended up buying some property, building a small home, which we realized we couldn't really pay the bills, let's say that way. And so we decided, let's share it by having kind of a bed and breakfast or an inn and see what happens. Right at that time, Oscar Arias, who was the president of Costa Rica, won the Nobel Peace Prize for brokering the peace for the Sandinista War. Simultaneously, we were opening our little inn in 1989, and we had the consciousness that we're in this beautiful country that has an environmental consciousness that we really adore, and we want to be really good citizens, good business people, and try to sustain some kind of good consciousness, good practices along with our business, and that's when we started with sustainability. Our organization, which is called CANAECO, which in Spanish stands for Cámara Nacional de Ecotourismo, National Chamber of Ecotourism, was the result of an eco forum that we held in 2003 in the jungle area on the Atlantic side of the mountain range that runs through Costa Rica, where all of us who were involved in sustainability and eco-resorts and other activities that had to do with good environmental stewardship and cultural support came to meet each other, to network, and to talk about what we could do as an organizational entity. And from that conference, which was very successful, we formed CANAECO as the governing body of that group of interests. And in the following years, we started to establish what our members needed, what we could do to help foment more consciousness about sustainability and ecotourism. And now, 7 years later, we have a very broad and bold political presence. We're actually conferred often by the Ministry of Tourism about how we would like to see things done. Our opinion is very valuable to them, and we represent our constituency in the idea of continuing a very strong, sustainable innovation and good business practices. But the bottom line for all of us is that we believe that the sustainable tourism has to first and foremost be financially sustainable, because otherwise we cannot generate the funds we need to do the work that we need to do. So we take a very pragmatic approach to conservation, to protection of the culture and history, to social responsibility, trying to find innovative and financially feasible ways of making sustainable good business. I think that all of us have had moments of great meditative relief, of spiritual awakening. Whether or not you're religious does not matter. And when you start seeing the demise of this sort of almost defenseless thing of beauty, you feel like, at least in my case, felt that I had a responsibility not only to my own world and the things that I wanted out of that, but also to protect it for my children, my grandchildren, and I took that responsibility very seriously. But on top of that, later, I realized that it was also something that would very easily fit into my business model, which is what I wanted it to do, and that it became part of a business strategy as well. So it was, in every sense of the word, win-win, and we've been able to show that sustainability is good business, and you can have a very positive profound effect not only on your lifestyle and your earnings, but also on how you're protecting and conserving the world around you. Well, I think a lot of the things that we're doing now to help decrease climate change, to not litter or contaminate as much, all of these sort of things that we associate with ecotourism or sustainability are based in some cases on financial pressures. For instance, when the price of gasoline goes very high, people start riding bikes or buying cars that are much more fuel efficient. And I think that in some cases we just have to accept the reality that the financial incentive is what ultimately is going to drive this thing to a pragmatic and practical positive trajectory. I think that it's really important to all of us that we have clean water, that we can breathe fresh air, that we can eat healthy food. But in the case of all of these, what's really going to bring everybody together is when it becomes financially uncomfortable or impossible for them to continue the way they've been living. I think one of the negative aspects of all of our societies that are based on glorifying the wealthy is, and I don't have anything against being wealthy, I think all of us would like to be able to be wealthy under conditions, but I think that there's a certain amount of justification that becomes very convenient for us in order to say, no, it's okay because that's what we do. Or that's the way our society works. Well, you know, the old saying, if you can't beat them, join them. I think that's the way that we have to deal with sustainability innovation, is to say, okay, let's make it financially feasible for people to do the right thing. And in our organization in Costa Rica, in the National Chamber of Ecotourism, we have developed an idea which we're going to be presenting in our conference on November 1st to 3rd in Costa Rica, which is an international conference. Everybody's invited, which we call Incenso, which is in Spanish, Incentives for Sustainability, where we're going to say to developers and other people who want to build tourist entities who may not be interested in innovative, sustainable, or eco projects within the development, i.e. treatment plants, solar panels, underground cables, there's a whole panoply of things. We're going to say to them, if you do these things, and we'll present a list of minimal requirements, all of which will be, in the long run, good for their pocketbook, like solar panels. You know, after 5 to 7 years, they pay for themselves. If you do these things on the onset, while you're in the construction phase and in your planning, we will give you a fast track through the government support of permits and other kinds of incentives. And what we're hoping to do with this, and I think it can work in Costa Rica particularly, is if you're a major investor in a project and you have several $1,000,000 invested, every month that you're not in process of getting that project done is another month of stress with your shareholders and a loss of interest in that money. So if I can offer you, or the government can offer you, or somebody can offer you a permit in 6 weeks instead of 6 months, that's 5 months or 4.5 months of not losing the working capital. And I think in the case of this project, many developers are going to go, well, I'm only going to have to spend $40,000 initially to put in these solar panels and these underground cables and all these other things, but I'm going to save twice that much in interest lost if I have to wait 6 months for these permits. So I'll do it because in the long run, it pays for itself anyway. I just didn't want to put the money up front to do it because I'm used to doing it this way. So by getting them on that bus, they then become part and parcel of the movement towards good practices, and hopefully, on top of everything else, will continue that policy in their own businesses.